Hello, welcome back to episode 14 of the podcast. I'm Matt Collins.
I'm Nana Gazlarty.
And today we had Ciorstaidh Monk and Ruth Mitchell from SOLAS in. It was an excellent podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yep, I thought it was great.
It was interesting to hear. There's a little bit of a crossover because episode 8 of the podcast we had Kay Symington in, who is mentioned during this podcast, and she had introduced us to Ciorstaigh's brand and what she was doing, and we knew Ciorstaidh from the building that we worked in. Yeah. So there was a little bit of history with us.
Yeah, it was great to finally get them both on together to talk about their brand.
Which is a really great high quality brand.
I think it's actually great to see a lot of companies come out of Scotland and actually produce things of quality as well.
Yeah.
And to actually care about the thing that they're making, as well as the process, as well as all the sustainability that goes along with it.
Yeah. It was a really interesting perspective into the manufacturing process and into the evolution and what they've learned from where they've come from to the business that they've developed. So I hope that everybody enjoys listening to it as much as we enjoyed discussing it. Thank you both for coming in. It's good to see you. It's good. The pretext, we know each other. This is not, and Nana and you know each other, but Ruth is the first time that we've met, so kind of glad to have you both on and hear a little bit about yourselves and your business. So do you mind starting off by telling us what it is that you do about SOLAS?
Yes, so we're SOLAS, and we create sleepwear, homeware and luxury accessories.
So how do you pronounce SOLAS?
SOLAS.
SOLAS.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a Gaelic word, so it means comfort and joy. And then without the kind of grav over the O, it means light. So all the kind of connotations work for a sleepwear company.
So it's a sleepwear company.
Yeah,
essentially.
And what does that cover? What does that entail?
Well, we kind of started out just we kind of wanted to make clothing together, right? And then we liked the idea of things that were a little bit slower. So it wasn't like a fast-paced fashion brand. It was more about something that you would invest in and keep for a long time. And I think we've been interested in sleepwear anyway because it was just kind of something that's like a trend just now, and people talk a lot about sleep and how to get a decent night's sleep, and it's kind of harder now because everyone's online, I think.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of the two things came together, and we ended up talking about just making sleepwear that you could kind of wear as clothing if you wanted, so it kind of adds the two things together. And I don't know, I just think the brand sort of developed into this kind of very chill sort of thing that's just kind of evolved over the last couple of years because we've been using social media to promote it and whatever. So a lot of it is about the photography around it and Scotland and the outdoors and being indoors as well. So because we've basically started from our own money, so we kind of had to build something without having a lot of investment. So I think this brand is kind of, does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
It had to kind of come authentically from us, I guess.
So we were what is it we're really doing? And we put a lot of thought into that. So the sleep thing has become quite a strong something that holds the whole thing together.
Yeah. That's a much deeper meaning than I thought. I thought you may have just said that you both really, really enjoyed sleep. And
well, we do. Yeah.
Where did the name itself, where did that come from? How did that come to be?
I think it took us a long time to kind of to find a name that fitted. But we're both really kind of inspired by Scotland, and I'm from the Outer Hebrides and grew up speaking Gaelic, so I'm a native Gaelic speaker.
Okay.
Wow.
And so we were looking at different kind of words. We kind of wrote all of our kind of brand values and any word that we could think of that was associated with what we kind of want to do.
Yeah.
And then we started looking at Gaelic words. And so SOLAS was just something that we just felt really fitted because of all the connotations, because we liked the word with the grav because it means comfort and joy, and then we knew that it would be used without the grav in some places, and then it would become light, so they both kind of work together.
I think also because we were so aware that the brand name would be more read than said out loud, because you use your advertising digitally a lot of the time, and you see things on social media or on the actual logo the curves and the shapes in SOLAS looks nice. So that kind of was a selling point as well for us. And also the O in the middle we used like as a kind of logo for the moon. So that kind of came out of that as well, which is kind of nice. Because it just sits by itself. So that was actually a design studio in Glasgow called Design by Zag that designed the logo for us. So that was a really nice collaboration because I feel like they really got what we were doing, and they're like a young. Well, I don't think they've been going that long, like just a couple of years. So it was nice to work with people who just started out and
help you on that journey.
Well.
It's good that you put a lot of emphasis and the thought into it, you know, and from the offset. I think with a lot of the companies, they tend to have something just as a placeholder, and then that becomes the company name or company brand. Whereas it looks like you've obviously thought about this in quite a bit of depth.
Yeah, definitely. It took us a long time.
So what was what made you decide that you wanted to do this specifically?
I think like we've actually done a few things together in the past, because we met in Cardonald College like years and years ago, and we just kind of stayed friends ever since. So we both kind of went our separate ways. I went to Edinburgh College of Art, Ruth went to Chelsea, and we both like lived in different places, but we would always like come back and like do little projects together. So we did a project with like I think it was at Telfer Galleries, wasn't it? Italia, with Stephen Morrison and Case from Young Fathers. So that was like a collaboration with them. They were doing a kind of like club night kind of thing. So they asked us to do some sort of clothing fashion intervention. So we did that together. And then we've done like a couple of things. So we were always like working together, and then for some reason this just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Because we had maybe been living in different places for a while and then came back, we were in the same place.
Yeah.
And I think we'd kind of worked for other people as well, and like we worked for a couple of fashion brands, both of us. And then, it just seemed like it must have been a timing thing.
Yeah.
Just the right moment.
Yeah, totally.
And we were just wanting to do something of our own to, have fun with. Because I'm a textile designer, Kirsty designs garment shapes, so the two things just go together really well. And because we basically have a lot of the same taste, it just kind of fits quite well. We trust each other's judgment and really like what you do, and vice versa, I think.
Like
that helps.
So it's
Where were you both in your careers individually before you started this? Like, what were you both doing?
So I was working for Fashion Foundry. So that's how I know you guys. So I was based in South Block. And before that, I'd been up in Iceland. So I was in Reykjavik working for a menswear designer. Started as an internship and then developed. So I was up there for a good few months. And then came back to Glasgow and started working in Fashion Foundry. And then, you came back.
So I've been living in London for a few years, and I was in Melbourne in Australia for a year as well, and I was just working for mostly fashion brands, and I've worked freelance for a long time doing like textile design sampling, with a bit of photography as well. So I was here and I was like freelancing here, and then we just happened to be in the same city. So
you both had a good experience of what was involved in starting up a fashion brand.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a couple of friends who'd started from scratch. My friend Kitty Joseph has her own brand, so I kind of was there doing print design for her when she started out. And then it was basically the beginning of Instagram, so I kind of saw how that really affected her business and helped it grow. And I lived with Sandra Rhodes, who's like a fashion designer, so I was very aware of how her business was functioning and how... I think, it's really interesting working with other people first, because then you get an idea of what's working, what's not working, without having to make those mistakes yourself, kind of thing. So, I guess with you, Australia as well, it was like a thing, like...
Yeah, definitely. I think we'd both say that working with other people first was like so... it helped a lot when it came to like doing our own business, because we could just see how different things work. We could see the difficulties when it came to like financing your business and like just like, or like where you're gonna, what kind of business model you're gonna have, if you're gonna like you're gonna do like wholesale and stock your clothes somewhere, or if you're just gonna sell direct. So it definitely helps to work with kind of like other people to kind of figure that out. And then working with Fashion Foundry as well, I like met so many amazing businesses based in Glasgow.
Yeah.
And can see how they're developing and the kind of things that they kind of struggle with. So yeah, it's been really good, and that's helped with like collaborations and stuff we've done as well. And I think that's what has really kind of shaped SOLAS up until now. Collaborations has been like a huge thing for us. I guess the first kind of collaboration was like, it felt like working with Design by Zag, like on our branding and logo and stuff, that felt much more of a collaboration than just like asking an agency to design something for us. And that was really, really nice. And I think that's kind of triggered it off, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you can tell us a little bit about your products, what are your products? What is it that you sell? I mean, obviously you've touched on that at the beginning. It's sleepwear, but what does that mean? What does that come out as?
I think we started with a kind of capsule collection. So as we said, like Ruth does the print design, and then I do the garment shapes.
A capsule collection.
So a small collection of like, we only had like maybe
tiny collection.
Tiny collection. I think we had like 5-6 sleepwear pieces.
Okay.
So kind of pajama shapes and a house coat. And then sorry to interrupt, but I think one of the things about the capsule collection or the idea is like they put a lot of work into it. So it was like with the branding and everything as well, like we put tons and tons of time into these garment shapes being like really flattering. So Kirsty kind of underplays that because that's her department, but like everyone that tries them on is like, oh, these actually look really good in me. And like we like that idea of them being like good for every shape and size and age, and you know, like they're not just for a particular type of person, but they're inclusive as they can be. So these 5 pieces are like really good designs, so we can kind of keep them, and they're not just we're not just going to go on to the next thing and like discard that. That's going to be like,
is that what the
you know what I mean?
The kind of meaning behind the capsule is, like a time capsule almost, like this is a signature of?
I don't know if it does mean that. Think that kind of works.
I think capsule collection comes from like you're going on holiday and you need a tiny amount of stuff because you're like a posh person and you're just going to be in a private plane.
Okay,
there's going to be a lot of that back and forth. I don't know.
I mean, I just made that up. But
but yeah, that's kind of like, I guess it's like the kind of the central pieces, and they're probably always going to be the kind of central pieces of like our brand, like those kind of shapes. And then we're trying to be as like conscious about having a fashion brand as possible, and not just like dropping a new collection like every 2 months, whatever. So we were looking at the kind of waste material that came out of when we were making these garment shapes. We had all these like bits of like material that was just like going to waste. So we decided to make like sleep masks.
Okay.
So here's a few sleep masks on the table here. Sleep masks, and then they were the things that really kind of like took off, because we would show at markets and around kind of Glasgow, and they were like easy pieces for people to like pick up and be like, have like a little bit of the brand kind of thing.
Could I take one? Could I have a wee look at one?
Yeah, try one.
So that's from our first collection. So we did
you
a
should
pre-collection.
you should absolutely put that on.
Oh my god, beautiful.
It's super soft. See, the thing is, it doesn't like hug your face too much either, but it's tight enough where it's like comfortable.
It's got like a little bit of compression, because I think that's like comfortable when you're like trying to get to sleep. Like you want that little kind of like hug.
Yeah, but it's nice and soft.
And they've got like blackout blind in them as well, so it's completely black. Yeah.
I was going to say, because it's super dark in there.
Yeah.
Nice place to be.
Yeah, so it's been nice to do those markets as well, because then that made us realise that a lot of people buy these as gifts, and then these new ones we're doing were like, because men will be like, oh, can men wear them? And then because the first ones we did were kind of florally, we've kind of tried to make them so that typically like men could wear them if they wanted, definitely. Because like there's no reason why not. So yeah, like it's turned out to be one of the things that sells the best, is these sleep masks.
Sleep masks.
Because it's like a luxury thing. You might not buy it for yourself, but it's like easy to buy it for someone else.
But I wear mine like every night now. I can't not wear it. I don't think you even wear one, do you?
I do. I wear one in the morning, like if I get up and it's early and it's light, like you get a wee extra hour or whatever. It's
pop it on.
Yeah.
So my fear would be is I'd do that and it wouldn't be an hour.
Yeah.
If I managed to find a way of making my room that dark, I'd never wake back up. I mean, they're really pretty. They have really nice colours, and I think one thing that I'm noticing straight away is the it's just maybe my background, but the tags are extremely professional looking.
Okay, thank you.
Which, I mean, how long have you been selling these pieces for? How long have you been doing this?
We kind of started selling in like November 2017. So
okay.
We probably started like talking about it in like the summer of that year, and then just started selling. But it was like sleep masks at a market, so that was like the first kind of like foray into it.
But that's been really popular. You're saying, like the sleep masks themselves.
Yeah, so it was the sleep masks that were kind of the biggest kind of seller.
Is that still the same today, or is that?
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah, kind of our core.
Although the scrunchie scene has been picking up.
Yes, yeah, we started introducing them earlier this year, I think. Yeah, so we had a launch downstairs actually from here at the hair club.
Yeah,
with Stephanie. So she, we had a launch with her. So we. She did her like styling, so people could like come along and like get a scrunchie, and then she would style it in their hair on the night, and then we showed like clips of like old movies with like really good like hairstyles and good.
So there's kind of a sort of tongue-in-cheek thing there, but as well it's like there's a wee bit of nostalgia and like the idea of a pajama party and that sort of thing. So we try not to take ourselves too seriously, like with the kind of like.
Yeah, because I think that's what we were noticing as well, like a lot of like when we were kind of doing our research about competitors and like other people who were doing similar things, we felt like they were all very serious. And like it's easy to start like that, because I think you're trying to be professional and trying to come across really professional and you know what you're doing, when in reality you totally don't, and you're just making it up. And we went to see a branding person through CEO, actually, Giles Etherington, and he was like, he kind of spoke to us for like an hour about our brand, and he was just kind of like giving us little kind of tips on like what we could like talk about, and like he was kind of saying you should talk more about like you're there's obviously humor, like you're obviously like, you're laughing a lot and like interacting, so you should bring that out a little bit more. And I think that was like a bit of a relief for us, I think.
Yeah, because we were trying to be natural. Cool, I think.
Yeah.
And then we were like, you don't really, people respond when you give a bit of your personality, I think, to your brand. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, but sleepwear always seemed to me something that's quite fun. You know, like I wouldn't have considered it to be a particularly serious area, but I can see where you're coming from. I guess in that more kind of like luxury sleepwear space, totally. I can imagine that being quite a serious business.
Yes, very slick and
everything's like super silky and
super silky.
White, probably. I imagine, but no, I mean, it's interesting that your main products kind of come off of an offshoot of what was left over from your original ideas. So what were the original ideas? Were the pajamas? Is that what it was?
I think we were kind of trying to make pajamas that we'd want to wear ourselves, and then we plunged pretty much all of the money that we had between us into making this capsule collection. And it was all like, it's quite hard to find people to make stuff in Scotland as well, because silk is a very sort of specific thing to work with. It's difficult, and you know, we had a few trial and error things, and it was just like money was just pouring out and wasn't coming back to us for a while. So yeah, it was almost like the sleep masks were almost a relief, just because like Kirsty developed the pattern, and once that was ready and like they were kind of like, they worked. As long as, you know, we made a few tweaks and stuff, but they kind of like, the production process isn't too difficult compared to garments where it's a longer process, and we have to kind of more things that can go wrong.
That's something I was quite interested to speak about, was the manufacturing process of something like this, because you're obviously a startup company in Scotland, and you're doing you're using a very particular material in a very particular market. How was that whole process for you? What is the process? Tell me the process, and then if you can tell me what it is, how it was for you, like what your experience of that was.
Well, I guess it starts with the digital print process. So Ruth develops her print designs, and then we send it to a manufacturer down south, who they have the silk as well. So they source the silk and digitally print it for us and send that back to us.
And is it printed onto the material?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not... Okay, I've never known that. I've always been curious how that works.
Well, you can either screen print or digitally print, but digital means you can have... The kind of prints that I do are a bit easier to digitally print, because there's quite a lot of colours in them. So with screen print, the more colours you use, the more expensive it becomes, basically.
And I imagine you must have to take into account the the colours you use based on the base fabric? Because I presume that you choose the base fabric as being a particular colour and then you print on top of that.
Base fabric's usually just white or like an off-white colour.
It is? Oh yeah?
Yeah.
And then it's okay, so they can do any colour in the...
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't come... okay, so
it's just white and then it gets printed as... You know, if you have a printer at home and it just prints in strips.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of process, but it's onto fabric and it's using dyes, basically.
Okay.
They then get heat fixed and then ironed and then pressed.
Of course, that makes total sense. I don't know why I'm thinking all of a sudden that
silk
silk comes in loads of different colours.
Yeah. It does, you can get that, but it would be like a plain, you just use it as a plain fabric, like this one. That's like a plain fabric on the back there.
Okay.
So that's just like an ink colour.
But if you're going to screen print instead, you would dye the fabric first. So you dye the base fabric and then you would either print on top or like print in a way that takes the colour back out again.
Okay.
So there's more thought behind the screen print. Basically, digital just gives you a lot more options, and you can use like photographic imagery, for example, where I don't know, maybe getting a bit too technical, but it's just an easier process.
Yeah, so you can have a little bit more.
Someone else is doing it as well, so we're sort of outsourcing it, and I'm not printing it as well.
Okay, so that's where the cost would come in, is that you have to actually purchase the material with the prints.
The time and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they ship up to you.
Yes. And then I basically make the sleep masks. So they're all handmade, the sleep masks. So we've at times like we're quite lucky because like I've got like my own kind of setup, like home studio.
Yeah.
So I can do a lot of them myself, and then in busy periods we can like bring other people in. So we brought a couple of people in the past. And then the sleepwear, we have a seamstress make up our sleepwear items, so the actual pajamas.
Okay.
So, because you could go to a manufacturer, so that's the kind of, for a small business, it's difficult to get into manufacturing because you need to be working in bigger volumes.
Yeah.
So when you're starting up, you're only making like a few pieces at a time, and manufacturers just can't like deal with that, like they wouldn't bother with you kind of thing. So the kind of stepping stone between that is working with a seamstress, but we've actually like managed to find one that's been amazing. Like Ruth knows her already, Yolanta, so she's been brilliant, and like she works the silk so well, and it's just so nice seeing it come back, and it's just made beautifully. Like if I did it, it just wouldn't be that nice. So like,
it must be tough as well, because I imagine you're very not protective, but very cautious about. You spend a lot of time designing these, and I'm sure you've had to like pick the ones that you think you want to produce, and then you have to have someone that hand make them as well. So bit of pressure to do that.
Yeah.
So you said that you brought in people in busier times. Is that the same? Is that the case with? Is it just a batch of orders come in, and then you need to just try and figure out how you're going to fulfill that order?
Much,
All right.
Yeah, because we've got that's another kind of way that we're trying to like do it in a bit more of a slow way. Like a lot of our stuff is made to order. Like our pajama pieces are definitely made to order, but we often have like stock of like the sleep masks and scrunchies because we're just making them as and when kind of thing. But I think like now people are okay when there's something, when they know it's kind of like a luxury item and they know that you're hand making it for them. I think it's okay to have that kind of wait time. So we try and keep our customers like in the loop, like at every process, and like keep them updated with everything, and that seems to have worked well so far.
I'm surprised that there's not more of that. Is there a reason why that's so difficult to get a hold of in Scotland? Because I would have imagined, I don't know why, I always assumed that would have been fairly well represented, would be seamstresses, given historically Scotland's position in the world.
No, there definitely are, and we've worked with a few already, and they've been brilliant, and we've learned like loads from like each person that we work with. Like the pattern might get tweaked, or like a certain process might be made easier, and it's been brilliant. But it was just through Yolanta, because you knew her already, so it was kind of like a tried and tested, like we knew that she was going to be brilliant, and she was brilliant, and it's just worked out really well. Yeah, really well with her.
Maybe people that work with luxury fabrics tend to move to London or bigger cities just because there's more work.
Yeah.
So maybe you might find someone who works freelance, but they've got kids or something like that. So they're not maybe. Like I find people that I knew in London were really pushing and like working flat out and doing a lot of freelance. and so they would have a lot of experience just from like having different stuff on. But I mean, there probably are people out there, but we just haven't been in touch with them or been able to get to them.
But Yolanta as well is working part-time, so I think a lot of seamstresses, they do work. It's like that as well as something else, as well as their own brand or another like work. Or
towards Fashion Week, they might have like more work.
Gets really busy for them. I mean, it's such a process to be able to get. Obviously, it's not like us where we come up with an idea and then we get to just do it there and then. So you can see the fruit of your labour straight away. And you have this whole process of where you have to come up with the design itself, which is a huge part of it, and then how that design is going to fit together. And then you have to bring into your employ the people who are, have those skill sets.
Yeah, definitely.
Because obviously you can't be a jack of all trades when it comes to something like this. So, I mean, the first thing that pops into my head is, I guess you'd have had to make the decision fairly early on whether or not you had a large collection or a very small collection. And even by it sounds, even though you have quite a small collection, that's quite an undertaking in terms of fulfilling those orders. So was there how did you come to the decision of what route you were going to take if you were going to try and sell just one thing? Or like, what was the tipping point where you're like, okay, we can't do more than 5 or we can't do more than 3? How did you come to that decision?
I think I guess it was it was a money thing. Like, we couldn't afford to do. We had to keep it quite small. But also, even if we had the money, we probably wouldn't have wanted to have a massive collection. I think it was more like, I think it started more as a kind of collaboration, and we were just making a few pieces, and just kind of seeing how it went, and then it just kept on going, and people were interested, and it just so it kind of evolved, and I think we've always gone with that. It's kind of evolved kind of naturally, and we just kind of go with that kind of flow. I
think as well, if you do more things sometimes or quite quickly, you can start to duplicate yourself. Say if we had a few different pajama bottoms, they wouldn't really be it wouldn't be as easy to differentiate between the different shapes, So we've got 2 and they're both distinctly quite different, but if we had a few more, I don't know if that it would make that much difference anyway. No,
of course. I mean, it's just, are all the model of, say, pajama bottoms and pajama tops, are they all the same model with different prints, or are they different models with different prints?
We've basically got the 6 pieces that we've got now, but we're introducing a couple more in the next kind of collection. So we're going to keep them as our kind of base shapes.
Okay.
And then we've got, in the first collection, it was macre flowers. So we had 3 different prints.
Yeah.
And so you could get those pajama shapes in any of the prints.
Okay.
Basically.
I see what you're saying.
So we kind of have a small selection of prints, and then the kind of small kind of capsule collection that you can choose from.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we've kind of done it. And I think we'll always keep those kind of shapes, and then introduce a couple more, maybe put one to the side for a little while and rework it and introduce it later on or something like that. But I think we kind of like having that kind of small kind of, because I think there's so much choice now. I think people can get bombarded with choice and being bespoke and just options everywhere. So it's quite nice to have that really curated offering to show someone.
Yeah, I think it's really nice. It's funny, but you see these brands, particularly in fashion, where even the older brands, they're known for one thing predominantly. All these different brands have a very specific item that they came into the marketplace with, and they're maybe still persistent with that item. And it's nice, it seems to be that way now. I think there was a period maybe 10 or so years ago where it was, huge stores doing everything. And now it seems to be going back down, where it's more independent designers doing one particular area of the market and becoming very, very good at that and very well known for that.
Being more focused.
And I see that even across the city, across Glasgow, more and more companies that are coming out of the woodwork and showing up with not trying to do everything, but trying to do one thing really well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Is that something that you started to see when you were coming out and you were starting up, that you thought this is...
So, yeah.
one of the reasons why we're basing ourselves.
And I think that's why we kind of thought of doing pajamas, like doing sleepwear. Like we could have done a fashion brand, and that could have been anything.
Yeah.
But we kind of wanted it to be focused and have that kind of like
it does make us to have to define it a wee bit more.
Yeah, and it's good to have boundaries, I think.
Yeah, I think as well when we both started, because we were always interested in fashion, we would like go to like big brands like Topshop or whatever when we were in college, and just like buy like a million of the same thing, and nothing was quite right, or it would all just kind of like fall apart quite quickly. And after a few years of that, you start to think like, if I'm going to buy something, I'd like it to look nice for a bit longer. And then the odd time I'd buy something from like a nice brand that was a bit more expensive, it'd be kind of like, wow, that's actually like a design rather than like something that's a passing trend. Like, you know, like a good design, I think, should be something that it can hang around for a while. Like, you'll get a bit of mileage out of it, or even if you put it away for a while, you still come back to it at some point rather than just chuck it out. So, I think it's worth putting time into to make a good design, just because it does last a bit longer.
I completely agree. I mean, it's one of those ones that it always surprises me when it comes to fashion in particular, is that you have probably one of the most design heavy industries in the world, right? But at the same time, you also have one of the shortest turnaround periods with regards. You have very strict cycles and very particular windows where particular fashions come out and then they disappear. And even if it's an excellent piece of fashion, if it's an excellent piece of clothing, it almost gets brushed aside when the new season comes in, which is it must be a really difficult industry to kind of find your feet in and like make your mark in.
I think you have to be confident about what you're doing and just be like, try to avoid the noise. And I think as well the fashion media has a lot to do with that. Like, you'll see these articles that are like out and in, and like you have to be like,
you're like, shit, I just bought that and it's out.
I got it in sale.
I know. And that have you seen you probably haven't seen it, I think it's in the Style of or something, a new Channel 4 show that's following a fast fashion brand, and it's just like, oh my god, like so frustrating to watch. I can't believe it's been aired.
But sorry.
No, I was just on you go.
Was it a concern for you when you made that decision? Like, obviously, if you'd started out with the intention of we're going to have a fashion brand, there's a much wider array of things you could do. But obviously, saying no, we're going to do this very specifically. You're right. It just takes the confidence, right? Yeah. But it's still quite a to put your stamp on that area and say, like, this is what we're going to do. There must have been a moment of hesitation, or was there a moment of hesitation?
I think so. I think for me, like, because I've worked as a textile designer, where you'd be producing a lot of prints per week, and they are being bought, like, sold to fast fashion companies that are then selling stuff like in 2 weekly cycles, like it's mental. And then because I'd been used to designing prints that quickly, I was almost like, oh, I don't want to look at these anymore. And then after a while, you realise like you don't have to move that quickly at all, and actually the prints can be part of the branding, and they're sort of recognisable. Yeah, I think that was a big thing for you, because you were like, I was like, let's do something else. Yeah, and I was like, right, we need to just sit with this. Like, we haven't even like shown it to anyone, and you're ready to do something else.
It's 2 weeks old, it's done.
So can you imagine doing like 10 designs a week, like 10 fabric designs a week, and then going to doing like 3 designs that basically lasted like 6 months to a year. Like, it's a huge difference.
Do you ever get, I imagine you do you ever look at some of the designs? I mean, I think they're beautiful. Now this is the first time I'm seeing them in person. Do you come up with a design and then think, I want to move on, like, quite quickly after you've had it for a while? You're like, well, this was good, but what's next? That happened quite a lot.
I think that's the nature of being a designer as well, is you're always tired of the thing you just did and you're looking ahead. But then it's the balance between having a business as well, is that most of the job is the business, and like
that takes up a lot of time. So you kind of don't get time.
Like the creative part is quite small in comparison, I guess.
Also, I mean, I presume it must be quite an intense moment, especially if you are looking at it. If you were looking at it every 2 week cycles, I'm sure there's still that high pressure of quality and of the expectation of of the final product. But with something like this, when you're aware that it's going to be lasting for 6 months to a year, has that changed the way that you design?
I think so. Yeah, probably. I design more slowly, I think.
Yeah.
And I'd come back to things and like look at them again, and I wouldn't just, because when you're doing faster design, you can't really, you don't have time to come back to it.
No.
But I think for me, developing a good design is like you have to be able to take a break and then come back. It gives you another, like a fresh perspective. And I was used to just kind of rattling through things more.
Yeah.
So I've probably changed the process a little bit.
And is that would you say that's been quite a positive?
Yeah, I think so.
To take that time.
Yeah.
What is the what's the relationship between yourself and the items when you're out selling them in a business sense? Because that must change a little bit, because if you both come from the creative background of the creation of these items and then not having to actually sell them, have you started to see the items quite differently when you're having to market them and you're actually having to stand with somebody and sell it to them? So the bit that would maybe be handed over to a shop, how's that what's that experience been like for yourself doing that?
It's interesting
that. I think like when we started the markets in kind of Glasgow had kind of become like they were like the place to be kind of thing. Like they're definitely they've moved from being kind of crafty to a bit more like more kind of thoughtful design, and like so it was really nice to like go to these markets and then see how people responded to the items and like what they kind of gravitated towards, and we could like actually like face to face tell them the story, and people were like so supportive.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely like spurred us on. Like just having like just talking to people and just like them being excited about it. And
I think I went with colours. I went really safe to start with, and I was like, I should do something like really subtle and tasteful. And then at some point Kirsty was like, that's not really what you normally do, like why have you done that? And I just thought that was the market, or you know, I just had an idea in my head it had to be. And then that's kind of our selling point as well, is that it is quite colourful and like.
Yeah, it's hard not to bend to what you think people want, rather
but
than.
Then you find people would be drawn to the stuff that you like the best.
Yeah,
it probably has
more authentic.
Yeah.
It's
funny that.
It's the money, right? It's the business side of things always warps perspective, I find. It's a similar story that I hear quite a lot, and I'm sure we both hear quite a lot, is people, they start out and they become very quickly aware of having to sell units, you know, and then they start to bend their ideals to, you know, the fashion or to what people are wanting instead of staying true to themselves. So I think it's really great to see that you guys have, you know, stayed true to yourself, and you've done actually, no, this is what we like and this is what we want to do.
It's definitely like a constant development as well. Like we've said, we've been like tweaking like patterns and like the pattern, the actual print design, and the actual shape of things throughout. So it's felt like it's definitely evolved, and it's the same with like the website and social media, like our Instagram, kind of that's kind of where we started, and that really like Ruth has like made that a real kind of like I don't know how to describe it, but it's like it's definitely, it shows the kind of vibe behind our brand, basically, like all the photography and like the colours that are on there, and so each part of it is almost like a little work of art for us, I think. And we're constantly like working on them and developing them, so it's all kind of like live, so nothing's finished. I don't think anything will ever be finished.
How did you find that whole process of the marketing side of things? So development of a website, development of a social media presence. What was the process there, and how did you find it?
It's really long.
Yes.
Yeah.
It took us a long time to get to where we are.
Really long. Yeah. It's just a grind, I think. Like, if it's like anything creative, I think you have these moments where you're like, oh yeah, like that, and then you have a long stretch where you're like, this is just dry, you know. But then I think with Instagram, for example, it's handy because people respond and you can actually chat to people, and like it feels like real people rather than say an advertising campaign where you're just imagining a customer and then putting your work out there. So like with designs and stuff, like I kind of would like to do it more if you ask people, like, do you prefer this one or that one, or make it more interactive as time goes on, just because it kind of makes it more fun. But we did a Kickstarter campaign as well, like this year, and that was just like this huge marketing campaign. We'd never really done anything like that before. So
how did you find that?
Pushed us into another like.
That terrifies me.
Yeah.
The idea of a Kickstarter campaign.
It is terrifying.
I've never done it. Yeah. I have no reason to ever do
it. With a deadline and a goal to hit.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think
you feel so exposed because like you've asked everyone you've ever met in your entire life to help you. Yeah, for money.
Yeah,
and then you're constantly like bombarding people. So we've got this many days left.
I know we felt like we were bombarding people, but I don't know if we actually were. But I think it just feels like you're constantly talking about it and asking people, and
so it was a lot of work,
basically. But that was through we kind of we were, I guess, because we'd like been funding it ourselves, just using all of our own money. And we were like trying to like find ways to like how we were going to like keep this going. And I came across Creative Scotland were running like a mentoring kind of scheme with Paved with Gold, who was on your podcast a few weeks ago, I think. Kay, and Richard as well. So Creative Scotland and Paved with Gold had come together to offer this mentoring scheme to offer like 6 or 7 brands mentoring through a crowdfunding campaign. So that's what we kind of took part in. So we kind of went through it with Kay and a group of other people, including like Botan, Make Welly Boots. Who else was there? Squirrel.
Tom. Yeah, it's like a board game. And
it was like a few other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was like a kind of definitely kind of put us into a bit of a community, which was really lovely, and a bit of a support network to go through this like getting ready for a crowdfunding campaign. I think if we were doing it ourselves, we'd have probably given up really early on in the process.
There's a lull in the middle of the campaign where you don't really get any more sales.
Yeah.
So it tends to, you get a lot at the beginning and then you get like a rush at the end. And you just have to wait out like 2 weeks where you're just like trying not to check the total every 5 minutes. Because if you don't make your target, you don't make anything at all. So it feels like all that time could go to.
It seems like such a huge undertaking, a Kickstarter campaign.
It definitely was. But I think it definitely transformed our kind of view of the business, because we were doing like sleepwear and like sleep masks, like luxury accessories. And through the campaign, we decided to like bring in some work with people to like, we thought let's do some collaborations to have some different rewards. So it's not, because we kind of treated it like a bit of a pre-order kind of thing. So we just had all of our products that people could buy. But we thought let's put some more interesting products in that people can like, might kind of shake it up. So we did a collaboration with Clara from Arboretum. She's based over in the Brigade, so she's a perfumier, whatever. So we developed like a sleep spray with her.
Awesome.
So Ruth and I went to her studio and like smelled all these like lovely smells and developed a sleep spray that we thought was really like comforting. And so we made that, and that was one of our first collaborations, I think. I guess we worked with Paper Street Dolls as well to do like a shop window at the CCA, and that was kind of like just as the Kickstarter was kind of starting. So that was another like little collaboration, and we turned their shop window into like a bedroom kind of set with all of our sleepwear and like little nice books and flowers and stuff. And who else did we work with?
We had the launch at the Hair Club.
I share
Sleepy Playlist. So that was nice because like we kind of like the idea of like all senses are kind of like involved in sleep. So you have your nice smells and you have your tactile sleepwear and you have like soothing music, and so it all kind of like goes together. And then Freya, that I share a studio with, she makes jewellery, so she'd made us like some one-off earrings. So then that was nice because all those people that have their own little communities kind of like fed off each other. And so that it was nice because it felt like it brought things to life again. You know, it wasn't just the two of us, and other people were involved. And like actually having events means you actually see people face to face, and you're like, oh, like it's not just us sitting in the studio. So that was cool as well.
And I think that made us realise how much we loved that and how important that is to us, like these kind of collaborations. So I think that kind of changed how we were like viewing the business. It wasn't just like a sleepwear brand. It was more like a kind of, I guess, like I don't know, some sort of collaboration house.
I
don't know.
I think it's hard to do anything in isolation, and I think even though there's two of you, I think actually having that feedback, like you were saying, like even on Instagram, that like, you get that instant feedback as opposed to just waiting and not knowing and not and not interacting with people. I feel like there's probably some people that they have creative background, maybe they went to art school and they did something and they want to start their own company. What would you say was some of the things that helped you early on that you think you should do more of, or you would tell someone that they should absolutely do if they're looking to do something like what you've done?
I would definitely say collaborations. Like, I think just before we started this, I did a collaboration with Alice Danzy Wright. So she's an illustrator, and I made garments, and she like painted her illustrations onto the garments, and we did it in like a workshop setting at the Lighthouse. Did like a couple of lates, and we did like a workshop where we painted all the fabric, and then I made the garment shapes up, and then we had that in an exhibition. And so I think collaborations are like a really good way to kind of figure out what you like doing, and then just kind of like opening you up to like an audience, and then just kind of like just work with different people, and
like as a deadline as well. I think when you're working with someone else and you're kind of like, so I've done my part and just waiting for you or whatever, vice versa. If you're working by yourself, say the reality is a lot of people leave art school and they've got part-time jobs or whatever, so you're then like tired, didn't get around to finishing things. And like a lot of people I went to art school with that are really talented just didn't continue afterwards, and I feel like it was because they lost confidence because they weren't making stuff. Like I think you just have to keep making stuff. As soon as you start to overthink it, then you get frozen and like it doesn't happen, I think. So it's more just like trying to keep going. And
I think the pressure there as well, once you if you have given it a little bit of a hiatus, going back to it's like my skills are a little bit rusty. So you would say just ignore that and just do it, just
keep making stuff,
just keep going.
And I saw something the other day, was like a meme where it was something about like not everything you do has to be good. So like if you take the pressure off yourself, like sitting down to do a drawing and being like, rest of your has to be a really good drawing, like sometimes it's just not, and you just do the next one, and it doesn't have to be perfect, like, you know,
and going through that pain barrier as well.
Just having the persistence, you will get better eventually.
Totally.
I think you need to be open to a bit of humility, right? You need to be able to say I'm not perfect, and everyone that is seemingly perfect has taken a long time to get there. You know, it's not just happened for them overnight. There are rarely exceptionally talented individuals who their first run is perfect, but that's not everybody.
I think we overestimate what our embarrassment means to other people as well. Because I'm sure the things that I've done in my life that were embarrassing, nobody else really thinks about, and vice versa. You know, so
Your company seems to me like one that is grounded in the idea of kind of local, not large corporate sales models. So very much person to person. You're wanting to have that impact within your community. You want to be, even just listening to the collaboration. That perspective is very much we want to be a part of the world we're part of, right? So I think that feels very much like the way that things are going. I'm kind of hoping that is an actual reality and not just a phase that the world's going through at the moment, where people are more willing to invest in a high quality piece of clothing rather than spend £3 in a, you know.
Yeah, I think so. I think people are starting to realise how much things actually like cost to make as well. Like obviously people have been so used to buying clothes that are just like really, really cheap, but that is just so not sustainable at all. Like, and if they actually, I think people are kind of starting to realise that, like, it's, like it definitely costs to kind of digitally print something, or like to find kind of quality fabrics that are going to last. So it's just kind of changing that, being part of changing that mindset of like, of buying to last rather than fast fashion, just like to satisfy that quick
Yeah, I think things have changed a lot in the last few years, and like people are aware now that fast fashion is just not ethical. It's just not possible to be ethical.
Yeah.
Because people are being exploited to make something cheap. Like even if they live in somewhere where you don't pay as high wages or whatever, it still means that like you don't know what the conditions are like. You don't know where things are coming from. Like, so. For me, like I know myself, I don't buy cheap clothes anymore. Like I just kind of keep reusing stuff. So I think loads of people we know are like that. Like there's a lot more clothes swaps and things like that happening where people will just like switch stuff around. Or like there's websites as well where you can buy stuff secondhand or whatever.
And like the rental model as well.
That's quite interesting.
Like Laura Ironside, she's Glasgow based, and she is really championing that like rental model. So she's making really beautiful silk dresses and separates, and you can just like hire them basically for like an event or something.
Okay, that seems like a really interesting way of doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like we've kind of dug ourselves into this hole where fast fashion almost seems like a necessity when you look at it from the perspective of people who don't have a huge amount of money who need to be able to clothe themselves. But we've created that requirement because we no longer created clothes that last. People don't buy clothes that last any longer than a month or 2 months at the maximum before they get rid of them. So therefore our second-hand shops are filling up with rubbish.
With where it used to be quite good stuff, and now it's like, whoa.
I mean, the good clothes in your granny's cupboard are good clothes because they were good clothes then, and they're still good clothes now. They're just...
But then you wouldn't have maybe expected back then to have had so much stuff.
So
you would buy a pair of shoes and that would last you for a while, and then you would get them fixed when they were not full, where they're, instead of just being like, oh, I'm going to chuck them now. But then I think it's the same with food as well. It's like quite a middle class thing to be like, oh, I don't buy stuff from like farm foods or whatever. But it's like, if you don't have the money, then that's the only choice you really have. Like, it is expensive to buy good stuff that's good for you. So
I mean, even myself, I've been trying to do it for years now, where I buy a minimal amount of items, minimal of clothes. I've never really been hugely into clothes. I've always kind of strived to have that perfect wardrobe of good pieces that I can wear consistently.
Capsule collection.
Precisely. That's the thought now. But even then, it's difficult to make that decision when you need something and you don't have a large amount of money to spend on that one item. Or it's about either having that or doing something else, and that tug of war of life, right? But I think it's important nonetheless that people are doing it, even if it's a small amount here or there. They're making those decisions, and brands like yours are obviously championing that very much. As if you're going to buy pajamas, you buy a good quality pajamas that is manufactured by people who care about it genuinely, not who are just in it to create a business.
Definitely.
Which is a really nice thing. I mean, I don't understand how you can possibly make a t-shirt in China and have it here and then sell it for £3. I just don't understand.
Somebody's getting exploited there.
I mean that's obviously the answer to it, right?
Sense.
But my brain doesn't compute how that can possibly work for the long term. Anyway, is that a case? Do you see that is something that's coming into be? Do you feel like that's more of a long-term fixture, or do you see that as being something in the direction that the world's going with regards to fashion? Because it must be quite difficult as well.
I think we maybe live in a bubble a wee bit. But at the same time, like the high street's not doing as well as it used to it's been a few years now. So I guess the longer people who are actually consumers put pressure on brands to do this, like you'll see probably, I don't know, I haven't been to Primark for a while, but I've got a feeling they're probably pushing the ethical thing somehow. Probably. It might be a lie, but like...
I mean, you've got Shell pushing eco-travel, for God's sakes. I mean, it's still Shell, still BP, let's not pretend. But everyone's trying, and I guess that's where the internet must have played quite a large role for you as well, being able to get your products out in front of people in local markets as well, where you don't have to... Your distribution model isn't taking it into a large-scale retailer and having them try and sell it to their customers.
But I think I guess it's just like going with how it's evolving just now, and then like this is definitely like a luxury product.
Yeah.
So like the price points are like high just because it's like silk, and so it's definitely a luxury product. So yeah, that's what we're kind of like aiming at as well. So it's not like an everyday thing. So it's like you'd buy like one set and like
exactly,
keep that for your whole life.
Yeah. I mean, that's the idea, right? That's I mean, they really are great pieces of clothing, that's for sure. So if you were imparting any advice onto somebody, particularly because the business side and the fashion side are two very different parts, but if you could impart advice onto somebody from the business perspective doing a fashion business, what would you say to them? What sort of advice would you give them?
I guess it's I don't know if this is like a business, but working with somebody, so having like two in a company is like really, really beneficial, because you've got that you've got kind of two sets of eyes over everything. You can kind of bounce off each other.
I think it's good to have work with somebody who has opposing skills to you as well.
Yeah.
Because we do double up a wee bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've taken separate parts of the business.
Yeah,
and we
definitely.
Kind of co-share or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, so I think that is a good thing. So it's having like that kind of two sets of skills coming together. That's been really, really helpful for us, I think.
Business-wise, I think it's quite good to have your own niche, like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Like figure out what you want to do and just keep persevering at that, and don't try and do everything. But I think that's quite often what people do, is they just try a lot of things and see what sticks. And it's expensive. Like fashion, having a brand like that is one of the most expensive ways you can go about things, because you're going to have to always create a product, and the smaller amounts of things that you're making, the higher you're going to be paying out. So it's if you can't really start from no money. Like I don't really know how we managed it, but we from what we were making on the side of our incomes, we managed to like
put it into doing this.
But that's why everything's gone so slowly as well, because we've never really had like a big investment apart from our Kickstarter. So
and I think that's good as well to have like smaller products. Like if the main thing is like the kind of pajama collection, we've got the smaller products that can kind of take over, and that's like a little bit of money in your business that will keep things kind of like going in the background, which has been really, really good. So that's definitely a tip. So having like a kind of like a range of kind of price points as well. That's helpful to kind of keep it going.
I think though with fashion, things are evolving quite a bit, like you said. So for example, back 10-15 years ago, you would want to like make your luxury product, get it out there, approach big retailers like Selfridges or Liberties or something. The dream is they would stock you, then you would just make your money. But actually I feel like that's dismantled a little bit now because of the internet. People buy things directly from brands, whereas before you were very reliant on the retailers or the bigger guys. So there's that route, but it's not necessarily right for everyone.
What I mean, obviously being stocked by one of those larger retailers is almost a mark of success, right? Because they've taken you on. What would you say the mark of success is nowadays? Because it's a little bit different, because you don't need to end up in one of these retailers to be an extremely successful online brand. So what would you say for yourselves? What would your mark of success be now, equivocal to being stocked in, say, Selfridges?
I mean, I feel like it would be just somebody that we thought was really stylish wanting to buy our stuff. Like, I mean, I guess there's a huge thing with celebrities wearing stuff, and that can catapult you into like mega money really quickly. But I don't think we're really that bothered about that.
I know, because we did think about that, like using influencers during our Kickstarter campaign, and we were just a little bit like, I don't know, like we couldn't really find anyone that really like fitted with our so we decided just to like, we thought it was still a really nice thing to like contact people and give them like a gift, like give them a little sleep mask or something. So we just kind of made a list of people who we really like, really kind of like liked.
And you wanted them to buy your thing?
Definitely, So people like...
So who's at the top? I mean, we're not going to, like, for us getting on the podcast, one day would be The Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
Cool.
Like, we would like to... So I think it's a good thing to put it out there and be honest with people about who it is that you would really like to buy your product.
I think probably Penny Martin from The Gentlewoman. I totally love her.
The Gentlewoman.
Yeah. It's the editor of The Gentlewoman.
I'm sorry, I have no idea what that is.
So it's, I think The Gentlewoman came after The Fantastic Man, do you know the magazine?
Yeah.
So Gentlewoman is the same kind of company.
Okay.
So she's Scottish as well, but based in London. Yeah, so there's something like, there's basically a lot of Scottish people in The Gentlewoman. And it's just like, I saw her talk and she was like, it's just because I can. That's awesome. Yeah, I know, I quite like that. But yeah, she's amazing. Who else? Peggy Goo, we always follow her. DJ, she quite often wears
like
pyjamas.
Like things that look like pyjama tops,
yeah,
so I feel like
she's amazing.
Cool. She could maybe pull it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rona McMillan is brilliant. She's actually an influencer based in Scotland, but she's really outdoorsy. Like she always goes like hiking and swimming, like winter swimming and stuff. Yeah. So we sent a scrunchie to her, so she was wearing a scrunchie swimming in some freezing loch somewhere, which is nice.
I feel people that have personalities and they're not just like pretty faces, you know, like people that do stuff and are interesting and are driven and, you know, that you would want to be friends with kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It must be really cool when you see or when you hear of people actually using the thing you created.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Yeah,
I love
really
that.
nice.
We get message every now and again just saying like I had the best night's sleep or like it's so lovely. It's really nice.
I guess that's one of the cool things about what social media has given is people share these things. Like when they really like a set of pajamas, they would maybe take a picture of it in their house and share it, and you get to see that, which must be really cool to have.
It never really gets sold. That it's always really nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's as we are reaching the last minute. So I guess the one question I'd have is there anything? Normally we leave with what is a book or something that you would advise somebody, you know, reading or watching or looking into if they're interested in doing this, something that maybe you'd read or watched that kind of inspired you or helped you make a decision or push you through to carry out your business. Is there anything that you have that you're like, this is...
I think finding a community is like a really strong thing. I can't think of any like actual books or anything, but that's definitely helped. Like the design community in Scotland's definitely helped us just with getting advice from people, like speaking to people. Like reach out to people that you admire, like who are maybe doing something similar or not necessarily similar, just something that you admire. Like just message them and ask them to meet for a coffee. And like I think that's been like really good for us, and it's still good for us. Like
I was going to say, do you ever watch Abstracts?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah,
I think that's really inspiring because, like what we were saying earlier, like most people that are on it, they'll be like, I had a breakdown at this point, or like I lost all my money or whatever, and it makes you realise that like to actually be successful at what you're doing, there's going to be quite a few bumps in the road. So I quite like that just because it kind of puts the designers on a pedestal a wee bit, I think, but also it gives you a wee bit of honesty about like it's a full-time thing and it's never off your mind, and like
that's true. That's very true. Okay, so
perfect place to leave that there. Well, thank you both for coming in and
giving
us your time.
It was a real pleasure.